Hi grown-ups, it's Miss Emily from Learn and Play Montessori School. We've just gone through a really challenging year, trying to adapt to homeschooling, which may be new to some of us, but may not be new to all of us. Now I'm here to talk to you today about some circle time techniques that can help you to start your homeschooling day off right. Now circle time is really important as it just introduces the child into the day. It gets their mindset ready to know that they're going to be doing some learning. It's also an excellent time to recap on some topics or some special areas that you had been learning about previously. And it's a great conversational time. I use this time at school generally to also get to know the children a little bit better, as it's a time that I feel they are more willing to share, as it's generally first thing in the morning when they've just arrived at school and are fresh. And this will be the same at home. They'll be feeling a little bit more fresh, their attention spans will be a little bit more focused, as it is the first activity that they will be taking part in during the day. Finding a comfortable area for circle time is a great idea, and ideally you should stick to the same area every time you do your circle time. That will help your child to understand the signal that this is where we're going to sit and we're going to listen. And typically during a circle time you do similar activities. So this is where you may be reading a story, this is where you may be looking at the calendar, this is where you may be introducing a new topic. And so generally children begin to understand that circle time involves some aspect of sitting down and listening. The beginning of circle time should always draw the children in and should be quite exciting. And so you might want to have some fun songs as a warm-up that you do every day. You may want to bring out a few instruments as it is your warm-up time. It's just a nice easy way to ease into the day so that the children feel excited to be there and will then be ready to listen once you have done your warm-up. Now you can do some warm-ups in different ways. You might start your day off with a riddle, depending on how old your children are. You may start your day off with a few yoga poses to do some stretches. Alternatively, you may want to get your heart pumping and you may want to do a few exercises just to get them in the mood. However, if you wish to start off a little bit slower, you may even start with a story. That is fine too. Now, in my circle times, I generally cover 3 topics, and that will be the day, the month, and the weather. And most days we will also talk about how we are feeling. However, I sometimes like to keep feelings as a topic that I look at specifically so that we can read related stories to it and talk about what the feelings actually mean. But in a general passing, we may just talk about how we are feeling if we're feeling a little bit sleepy that morning, or if we're feeling quite excited, maybe we're doing something later that afternoon. And this is a great way to get to know the children. Even though it may be your child at home, it's a great way to know what they're thinking about or how they feel about things. You may even decide to talk about if they had any dreams last night. It's just a great conversation time, and it really helps the children feel a little bit more at ease and relaxed and also attentive as they begin to understand the process of talking back and forth and taking turns within a conversation. Once we have sung our hello or good morning song and we've briefly looked at how we are feeling that day, I move on to the calendar. Now, you may choose to keep it really simple, and depending on how old your child is, you could verbally just talk about the weather by doing things practically, like looking outside. You could even use a calendar of your own just to show them the different days of the week and months of the year. For younger children, however, I do suggest that you use some pictures, as that does help them to relate the information. For example, for the weather, you could have a cartoon image of the sun. You may even choose to use a real image. Or, even better, you could take pictures together when you do come across these different kinds of weather, and you could look back at these when it is that kind of weather the next day. For example, if you're taking a walk and it's a really nice hot sunny day, why don't you get your child to help you take a picture of the beautiful sun or the seascape, whatever you may be looking at, and then you can use that in your calendar. Now I have a calendar here that I use which has everything on it, including days of the week. It has some numbers, it has seasons, weather, and months of the year. But like I said, you could keep it simple. You could also make these things at home. And generally, if your child is younger, you do not want to bombard them with too much information. Completing this whole board for a 2 to 3 year old may be a little bit more challenging, and of course they may not completely understand it as it is an abstract concept. However, for older children, of course, this can help them to understand the whole date. So you may even get them to write it out. For example, 28th of December, and it is a Monday. They could write that on a whiteboard for you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I like to use circle time to also recap previous concepts that we have been looking at. That is things like numbers 1 to 10, which we can easily incorporate into our date. Colours, for example, looking at the weather. What kind of colours do you see in the sky? Oh, what do you see after it rains? A rainbow, right? Let's go through the colours of the rainbow. I wonder if you know a song about the rainbow. There's so many things that you can incorporate into circle time to really stretch it out. But I do recommend that you keep circle times relatively small, nowhere longer than 20 minutes, I would say. For younger children, it may even be as little as 10 minutes. That is perfectly fine, as it is an introduction to the day. Their attention spans will not stretch that long typically, especially at the beginning if they are younger, and you do really not want to force that. So also, if you're at home, go along with their attention span and you will see it progress as they mature. Now, last of all, in a circle time, I may also use some time to introduce a concept. And this could be anything from colours to animals, any particular theme that you were looking at, a new letter of the alphabet, which you may introduce weekly, a new number, it could be anything. And generally, I would introduce this using a game. And this will be our focus for the day. So we will then incorporate other activities that are centered around this new information that we just learnt at circle time. So for example, if we're learning about farm animals, I may introduce some farm animals in a row. Hopefully we could have some toys so that the children could actually physically touch them and look at them. But if you only have pictures, of course that's no problem. You could also introduce the animals using pictures, introduce them with lots of sound effects to make it fun, introduce it with a song, singing Old MacDonald, and then we could play a game. For example, we could line our animals up in a row, ask our children to close out their eyes, and then we will take one animal away. Now this also improves our memory, so they can try to test their knowledge. Do they know the farm animals? And you can test their memory. Can they remember which farm animals we had and which farm animal is missing? And this really gets them excited for learning more about that topic. So I hope I've given you a few tips on how you may decide to run your morning when you are at home and looking for something for your child to do, whilst still trying to feed into their academics and into their learning. From everyone at Learn and Play Montessori School, goodbye.